Welcome everybody to another Last Rasp Baseball video production, and today we are going live with an interview with former Kansas City Royal minor leaguer Ray Brown, and we'll be welcoming him to our live stream. This is the first time that we have done a live stream interview, and so we're going to see how this is about to work out. With over 50 years of playing and coaching experience, Ray will be talking about player development today. And so since 1993, Ray has been the development officer in the Oceanic region and has sent many players to college and professional baseball from that region during his time there. Again, talking about development at the professional level, but we are going to work our way backwards a bit to the college and youth levels. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat and we'll address them where we can. Thanks, and we hope you guys all enjoyed the interview. We're going to be on for about 60 minutes. So let's bring Ray into the studio and welcome Ray Brown to our stream.
How are you, Fred? Thanks for having me.
How you doing, Ray? Welcome to the live stream. This is the first time we're running a live stream interview, so we're pleased to have you as a guest.
Oh, thank you very much. Hopefully it won't be our last time.
Excellent. Well, listen, Ray, I prepped the audience by saying what we were going to talk about today was going to be about player development. And we were going to start chatting a little bit about player development at the professional levels and then work our way back. This year in 2021, there have been some major changes at the professional baseball level. And those changes have included where basically major league teams have pared down their minor league affiliates from AAA, AA, High A, and Single A, where sometimes teams would have 6 or 7 affiliates at those levels, where each team now only has one. Further to that, they have developmental teams in obviously the Gulf Coast and the Arizona League, and also in the Dominican Summer League. But ultimately, we want to think about the actual development process of how we're developing players at that professional level, and also with your time and experience with Kansas City. So I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit, Ray, and bring into your expertise what you think and how certain teams and how they start thinking about developing their players.
All right, thanks, Fred. That's a lot of question. But anyway, at the professional level, when the scouts go out to look for players, they're looking for the 5 tools they look for. Can he hit? Can he hit with power? Can he throw? Can he field? And can he run? Those are the 5 tools they look for. And so if you find a 5-tool guy, I guess like the shortstop from the Padres, you make $347 million for 14 years. If you're a 2-tool guy or a 3-tool guy, then obviously the amount of money you're going to make is going to go down. Unless you have the one tool, which is throwing, and it's a plus tool, then you can do pretty well in this game. But those are the 5 tools that they look for, and then they rate you accordingly. Now, there's when I was playing, I was very fortunate because if I'd been playing in this era, I wouldn't have had a chance to play the 4 years that I did in the Royals organization because I didn't throw real hard. I was probably mid-80s, but I had very good command and very good breaking ball, and I could pitch a little bit, so I got to play the 4 years. So they said, thanks for coming, but now it's time to leave. And then you'll see some guys again in the development process that throw really hard, and they're hoping they can teach them how to pitch. All right.
Well, you made an interesting point there, Ray, with regards to the tools that they're looking at, the 5 tools that scouts will be looking for. And so my question to you is it always necessary for young players prior to maybe going into the college ranks or even at a professional level to be playing in the best leagues? Can still players play and still be found when you're just looking for those tools?
Again, it depends who you're talking to, but you're talking to me, so my answer is no. Nowadays, every young person that's playing this game is being scouted. And some of them start getting scouted when they're 11, 12 years old. A lot of scouts go to those little league games now to start watching kids so they can follow them. And so if you're playing in a high school, just with your high school team, you're playing in your summer local team, just with a bunch of friends, those teams also get scouted. So you don't have to spend all your money to put your kid in these, I forgot what they're called, the showcase tournaments. where you're going to spend heaps amount of money to go showcase your child, and maybe he'll get a chance to play if he's average, and if he doesn't, well, you just spent the money. So for me, right now I'm living in Canada in the province of Alberta, and showcases are really big here. But when parents come to me, I tell them don't waste your money on that. Your child has been seen by scouts. He's been evaluated. I would tell them save that money so when it's time to go to college, you've got the money saved for him. I said, but for me to put him on a bus or put him in a van and drive him to Montana or Washington or Oregon to play in a showcase tournament, I think it's a waste of money. Now, back when I got to Canada in the middle 70s, it wouldn't have been a waste of money because the players weren't scouted as much. But baseball's grown a lot in Canada, and if it's grown a lot in Canada, it's even grown more in the States. So if I had a young guy playing the game, I wouldn't be sending him to any showcases because in his high school season, in his Connie Mack season, in his whatever he's playing, Babe Ruth or whatever summer league he's playing, he's being seen. And if he can play, they know about him.
Well, that brings me to another question, and that would be is when you have young players that are possibly looking at maybe going the college route and not going the professional route, individual schools hold showcases. Would that be something that you would maybe advise a kid to go to if he's interested in going to that school specifically so the coach is firsthand? Or would you have a different thought on that with regards to the showcase?
So you're saying like USC is going to hold a showcase for players, and should I go to that showcase?
Yes.
Is that your question? Yeah. If I'm invited to a showcase for USC or any big Division I school, obviously they think I can play. They've seen me. For sure, I would go to that. That's a lot different than going to some tournament that somebody's arranging and is telling you we're going to have all these coaches here, we're going to have these scouts here. Well, you've already been seen. To me, they've been seen. But if you've been invited to a school, they want to see some more of you, yeah, I would go because now they have interest. They know who you are. That's why they're inviting you. I guess it's no different than the like in the NFL. Before they have the draft, they have all the top guys come there to get that one last evaluation. But all those guys are invited. There's nobody just showing up because they want to show up. For something like that, for sure, Fred, I would take my son to that because that's not a waste of my money. This school has interest in my son or my daughter, for sure. I would go to that.
So turning back to the professional level, because we said we were going to start with that. Each team has a different philosophy on how they scout, how they develop, how they maybe draft players, even in terms of how they use analytics in their rationales for making determinations on how they value their players. So my question to you is, Ray, with your time in organized ball, and of course you were with one organization being the Kansas City Royals, how did you feel as a player what their development philosophy was for you, trying to bring the best out for you as a pitcher? And I want to preface this, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Ray was the first pitcher in the California League to throw a perfect game, and also he threw 2 no-hitters in the Cal League as well. And so that's just a little background in terms of Ray's pedigree. But how did you feel about how the way they developed the players within that system for Kansas City?
Well, just a little quick one thing. I threw 2 no-hitters in my career of 4 years. My first start in the Pioneer League was a no-hitter, and then I threw the first perfect game in the California League. So in the 4 years I played, I threw 2 no-hitters. One was a perfect game. In fact, my first no-hitter was 1 batter away from a perfect game, but I only pitched to 27 guys. But anyway, the Royals, I thought the Royals treated me fair. They gave me an opportunity. They had me working on a knuckleball and a forkball. The forkball is now called the splitter. Well, it's the same pitch because they liked how I went about my business. They knew that I could pitch. They knew that I was competitive, but I was a little bit short on having major league ability. All right, but they liked the makeup, but they had to find a way to get me some more ability, and so they gave me a chance to do that, and I can't complain. I didn't throw hard enough, and even though I'm getting the guys out in high A and in spring training and AAA, and I'm getting those guys out. At the end of the day, it's a business, so they got to say, yeah, he's getting these guys out, but can he do it consistently at the next level? Well, there's got to be something there that says, yeah, he can. Let's move him up. And if they don't see that, then they're going to take the guy who throws a little bit harder and give him the opportunity, because the guy that throws harder obviously has a better chance to become a major leaguer than a guy that throws slower. And but the Royals treated me fair. And then at that time, the Royals were just deep in pitching. They had just heaps of guys who could pitch. So it was good. Again, I think the Dodgers are the same way, because the Dodgers have always been pitching strong. So I think they give pitchers a little more opportunity, especially if they see the makeup that they're looking for. There's, as we both know, as a lot of people know, there's lots of guys who can throw the ball really hard, but they don't have that internal makeup to be a competitive pitcher, but they can throw hard. All right, so you need to have the balance. To be a Nolan Ryan, you got to have the inside stuff that says, I'm going to get you.
So as an example, using Kansas City's example, what would be some of the things that they would talk to you about philosophically about preparing yourself as a pitcher? Now, you started and you relieved, but what would be some of the things in terms of focus where they would try to keep players? Did they attack hitters certain ways? Did they have general philosophies, the way that they would try to develop their pitchers to go about their business? Those type of things. What would the Royals do?
Back in those days, they watched you. They let you pitch. They gave you the ball. They send you out to the mound, and they watched you pitch. They watched how you went about your business. There was never any talks on philosophy, how we're going to pitch this guy or how we're going to pitch that guy. They gave you the ball, and they let you go and pitch. And so again, like I said, in those days, they wanted to see if you could compete. And how are you going to get this guy out in this situation here? So there wasn't a whole lot of there was still analytics, but not to the point the other day. All right. So like I said, when I played, if you were a starter, you got the ball and that was your game. You didn't want to come out of the game. There was no number of pitches that they're okay. He's done. Get him out of the game. They let you go until their eyes told them he's had enough. I remember one time we're playing in Visalia. And I'm going pretty good, and we get to the seventh or eighth inning, and there's I've got an out with guys on second and third, and it's a 1-run game, so I've got to work hard on this next out. I might maybe throw 10 pitches to him, but I wind up striking him out, and then Boros comes and gets me. A guy named Steve Boros was my manager. He comes, gets the ball, he goes into he takes me out of the game. And so after the game, I said, Steve, why did you come and get me? He says, Ray, because I could see you were getting a little tired. He says, and plus you threw 12 pitches to that guy in his face. He says, and it's late in the game, so I thought it was time to come and get you. I said, okay, all right. But there was no, when Ray Brown gets this many pitches, you take him out of the game. All right. And I guess another example would be the past World Series when the guy goes and takes the guy out who's beating the heck out of the Dodgers because analytics say third time through he doesn't do well. Well, I sometimes, like I said to a friend of mine, analytics are a tool. So use that tool, but the biggest tool and the best tool you have is your eyes and what the other guys are doing against him. So in my opinion, I'd have left him out there to pitch against the Dodgers because I think once you take him out like how they did, every batter on the Dodgers team was going, all right, he's out of the game. We have a chance now. That's my thought. All right. Yeah. But so use the analytics, but don't think that they're the Bible of baseball. And the Royals never did that. The Royals, their eyes told you what they should do. Like I was very fortunate that I had Bob Lemon was the roving pitching guy for a couple of years with the Royals. And so I got to talk a lot. I talked a lot with Bob Lemon only because I knew his boys. He's from Long Beach, so we knew Bob knew who I was, and I knew who he was. So we talk about pitching. He'd say, "Well, Ray, I think you got to do this. I think you got to do that." Or I one time I got to talk to I forgot how Roger Craig, because Roger Craig threw a palm ball, and I threw a palm ball. So Roger Craig was the pitching guy for the Dodgers in the minor leagues. And so we were playing in Bakersfield, and Boros knew Roger Craig. So Roger Craig watched me pitch the night before, and the next day I went over to talk to him. He says, Ray, you can pitch a little bit. He says, but you're a little bit. He says, but you need about this much more on your fastball. All right. So he liked what he saw, but there just wasn't enough ability. And I said, well, Roger, where do I go buy that at? And we had a laugh, and I went back. And so yeah, so it was different times. Nowadays, I think. The organizations, everything, a lot of scouts, they scout by the radar gun. Another example, we have a summer home in Las Vegas, so I go see UNLV play a lot. Well, one of the pitchers for UNLV is
Greg Maddox's son.
What's his name?
Greg Maddox's son.
Greg Maddox's son, okay. And he was a senior last year. And I saw him pitch his 3 years, and he wasn't very good. Well, all of a sudden, I'm watching this kid pitch, and he's getting people out. He's making them look ugly. But the radar gun's only saying 86, 87, 88. So I do a little bird dogging with the Potters. I'm sitting there with my scout, and I said, Jamie, I said, this guy can pitch a little bit. He goes, yeah, but Ray. I said, yeah. I said, I understand that. I understand that the number doesn't say that we should take a chance on him. I said, but the man can pitch. The man can pitch. I said, Jamie, I said, that's where I think the game has gone backwards, because we care about one tool. How hard does he throw? How hard does he throw? Instead of, can the man pitch? All right. Will he give us a chance to be successful? And again, maybe at 86, 87, you won't, but it's all discouraged. They don't even want to talk about that guy unless it says 94, 95, whatever the number has to be nowadays. And in some ways, I disagree with that. Like I coach a college summer team up in Canada, up in Fort McMurray. It's called the Fort McMurray Giants, and we play in the football league. It's a college summer league. And so the guy who recruits for us, and Andrew Bradbury, he says, Ray, he's like, I've got a couple of pitchers, but they only throw like 85, 86. I said, Andrew, I don't care how hard they throw. I said, do they throw strikes? He said, oh, yeah, then bring them. Then bring them. All right? And if you throw strikes, you'll play for me. All right? But understand, I'm not we're not a professional league. We're a college league. All right? And in our league, guys who throw 85, 80, in the high to upper 80s can pitch here and do very well. Now you go to the West Coast League, which is a step above our league. Can that same guy pitch there? Well, I would say yes, he can, if he can pitch, because he'll make the adjustments he needs to get those guys out. But if you go to the West Coast League, which is some teams out of Vancouver and Oregon and Washington State, you won't see a lot of guys on those teams that are in the high 80s. Almost every one of those guys on those teams are going to be in the 90s someplace, because that's what they want. They want guys who throw hard. Well, I want guys who can pitch. All right, so that's my philosophy as a coach. If I were a college coach, if I were coaching a college team in the United States, and I went and watched high school kids play, and this guy was only mid-80s, but he can throw strikes, I'll take him. I'll take him, because I'll have defense that'll catch the ball for him. All right, so
I was going to say, in the early 2010s, the Oakland Athletics used to be affiliated with the Vancouver Canadians.
Yeah,
and they had a coach. His name was Rick Magnenti, and Magnenti was also the South African coach in the World Baseball Classic team. And so one of the things that Magnenti thought about was player development. And what he used to impress upon his players is he felt the first half of the season would be a teaching part of the season, where he's trying to implement the philosophies of the organization. He's trying to make sure these players understand what their job at low A ball was to do. And his thought was, once we get through the halfway point, then we got to let them play. We got to let them be able to get out there and see if our teachings are going to be able to be applied and let them do their work. So when you're thinking about your own self in development with players, and especially with organizations, or if you guys are coming in from all over the place to play for you, what are your thoughts on trying to be able to get them to play as a team, and how you want to impress what your thoughts are onto them, rather than maybe a little bit coming from Cal State Dominguez Hills and another one coming from Cal State LA and another guy coming from Bellevue and all the different places that are around. How do you get them to focus on what you need them to do?
As soon as they get there, and I tell them, this is our philosophy. I says, I don't like rules. I says, but if we're on time, we work hard, we don't cause any problems, we won't have a lot of rules here. All right. So I want to understand, because now we're going to set the framework to play for Ray Brown. All right. No tobacco, no drinking on the bus, no drinking in hotels. Cut your hair. If you're going to have a beard, it's got to be neat and trim. All right. That's hard for me, because I'm not a hairy faced guy. But I understand this is the 2020. It's not 1985 no more. So if you want to have a beard, make sure that it's trim. With our team, everybody blouses their pants. And what that means is that people see the stirrup socks. Nobody wears their pants down to their ankles. And that's good. Well, so we can't. I says, no, you can't. I says, on our team, we're a team. We're going to look the same. All right. When you go to the Army or the Marines or any place, when you go see a soldier, you don't see one soldier dressed different than another soldier. They're a team. They're a unit. All right. Not that we're the same as the military, but there is a structure and there is a discipline of how you're going to look if you're going to wear a Giants on your chest. And then we talk about we go over cutoffs and relays, because I don't do a double cut anymore. Everything is a single cut. So I say, here's how we're going to do this. And then you'll have some kids say, well, at our school, I says, yes, I know. I said, at your school, that's fine. But now you're here at my school. And at my school, this is how we do it. All right. And so we talk about different philosophies like that about, and then I say to them, remember this. I says, as some of you guys make the next step to the next level, the one thing you never want to do when you go in there is you never want to tell a professional coach in an organization, well, at USC we did it this way, because he doesn't care. You're not at USC no more. Now you're in the Dodgers organization or the Giants organization, and this is how we do it. All right. So it's up to you to learn how we want you to play. It's up to you to learn how we want you to play. Now, fortunately, what they do nowadays is as they plan on drafting a guy, especially in the high rounds, they go talk to him, because they want to get a feel for him. Is he going to be a fit for our organization? Is he going to fit our organization? And especially if you're the Oakland Athletics, where you don't have a lot of money, you want to know, does this guy have the character, the discipline? Does he have the drive to do what we'll need him to do to become a major leaguer? And does he have the skill? All right. Is he going to be a coachable kid? Is he going to be a coachable kid and be ready to make the changes that we think he needs to make to be successful? And I think all good organizations and programs have that same philosophy, Fred. And what we'll do with our guys, and we'll say, if you're not going to be a fit here, then we'll send you home. All right. Because you're not a fit for our team. And when I was a young guy, we were told that you got to cut out the cancer. Well, all it takes is one bad guy to ruin the whole team with his, well, I don't want, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And instead of buying in or having some leadership on the team that says that no, this is what Ray wants, is what we're going to do. The 5 years I coached in Edmonton, the last 4, I had guys who did that. New guys would come in, they say, no, that's how we do it here. This is the prospects way. And now it'll be my second year up in Fort McMurray, and that's turned around. I remember when I first got there, and I said to Dutchie, Ian who's the owner, I said, Dutchie, we got to change the culture here. He said, well, Ray, we know how to play baseball. I said, no, not how we play. Not that we don't know how to play baseball. We got to change the culture of why the kids are coming here. We want them to enjoy their summer. We want them to have a good time, but they're coming here to learn and to get better and to play baseball. They're not coming here for a summer vacation All right. So winning has got to become important. Winning has got to become important. Has got to become important, not only to the people that own the team and to the coaches, but also to the players. All right. And when we lose, why did we lose? What do we have to fix to become better? All right. Like with my team, and I think this is the same with all organizations. If you've played the best you can play and we get beat, we can sleep that night, and then we'll try to make the adjustments we got to make to get us better for the next game. All right. And sometimes those adjustments are we got to get new players. That's just the way that life is. Sometimes that's what it is. We say, like they said, well, Ray Brown, thank you for 4 years, but we think we've taken you as far as we can. So it's time for you to move on, and we'll find somebody else. And you say thank you and move on.
So I'm going to change strides a little bit here, Ray. Since 1993, you were the development officer in the Oceanic region for baseball. So you've had a chance to go to, obviously, to Australia, New Zealand, Saipan, all the different places in American Samoa in that part of the world, and to help them try to develop the sport of baseball. And so a lot has changed, I'm sure, over the last 28 years. But when you go in, where you went in brand new, or you went into what I would call rural areas where baseball is not the traditional sport, what were some of the things that you brought to the table and you tried to do with those groups to basically to start to promote the sport and the game and to get kids interested in the game?
I was very fortunate. My first posting in Oceania was to American Samoa. And the man who ran that program was a guy named Ben Soleita. Well, his brother, Tony Soleita, played in the major leagues for the Royals and for the Angels, I think for Oakland. So Ben was familiar with baseball. Ben was born in American Samoa, but he was raised in San Francisco and Oceanside, California. So he understood what had to be done. Well, so in 1993, that's where I was sent, and we had a couple of talks. And I said, "Well, Ben, what do you want me to do?" He said, "Well," he says, "Ray, we got to grow the grassroots." He says, "We do have little league, we have high school." He said, "But we've got to make it better." I said, "Okay," and so he let me run with it. He let me put together the developmental program and run with it, and they became pretty good. I remember one time, maybe within the first month I was there, and island people, a lot of them don't understand what a clock is for, so they were late to practice. And so we had a few talks, and then I said, "You know what? Starting tomorrow, if you're late, the gate's going to be locked, and you're not going to practice." I said, "Practice starts at 5:00. Does anybody have a problem with that?" What I always do, because I don't care what time we practice. That's what my job is. But I care that they're going to be there. So if one kid says, "Well, Ray, I don't get off my job till 4:45, so I might be a few minutes late," I'll say, "Well, how late?" He'll say, "Well, maybe 5:10. I'll say, "Okay, practice starts at 5:15. Is that enough time for you?" "Yes." "Okay, 5:15 we go." And what we'll do is we'll have some pre-practice, extra hitting or something before 5:15 we'll start practice. So we got that time established. And the next day, 3 kids were late. They get to the fence and it's locked. Coach. And I said, "Yeah, we're here to practice." So I pull out my stopwatch. I go, "What time does it say?" "Well, it says 5:05. I said, "What time are you supposed to be here?" 5:00. "See you tomorrow." And we went back to practice. Well, one of those kids was Ben's nephew, and 2 other kids had parents that were pretty high in the baseball structure. So the next day they called Ben at work, and they said, "Ben, that Ray Brown guy, he didn't let our guys practice." And Ben said, "Well, what happened?" He says, "Well, they were late to practice, and he sent them home." Ben said to the parents, "You do what Ray Brown tells you to do, or pull your kid out of the program." Ben told me this story. And I knew it was going to work because Ben had the same philosophy as me. We got to learn to be disciplined. We got to learn to have respect for the people that are around us, and so that we can get the work done. And the program went from there. If Ben would have said to me, Ray, you got to be a little compromising with these guys. I just said, you know what, Ben, get my plane ticket and send me back to Canada because it's not going to work. It's not.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because obviously we run the programs here in North Vancouver, British Columbia, and wherever you are in Canada, you're always going to be competing with hockey as a prime sport. You're also going to be competing with soccer in this area because soccer, the climate, the weather allows itself to be able to be a more year-round activity. And so you have sometimes you have parents that will bring their kids and they'll want to show up when they want, or they say, well, we can't practice on the nights you're practicing because we have hockey, or we can't do it because we've got this or that. If you want to have a program, you're going to have to say, hey, you can't be in two places at once. This is what we're going to do, and this is what we need you to be here at these times. If not, it's not going to work. And so there has to be a buy-in, I think, as well at all levels of the sport for this to be able to work. If not, you're not going to be able to develop a program and to move along. And so back to your side with when you're in the oceanic region, I guess the next question I would have for you: how do you try to train kids to play the game that maybe aren't watching the game or maybe necessarily paying attention to the game? Because in North America, we've got all major league teams that are in spring training right now. Come this weekend, there's going to be games on TV somewhere. Kids are going to have avenues of opportunity to be able to watch and to connect with those players. But if you're in an area where there's a marketplace where they just come and play, but they're not actually watching others do it, how do you find to develop and connect those players?
Well, a good example of that would be Fiji. Baseball was never played in Fiji until 2001 when I went there and started the baseball program in Fiji. They had no idea of baseball or softball. So you start the same that you would with little guys coming into the game. Here's the bases. Here's how we run the bases. Here's where we stand in the batter's box. Here's the positions. You start at the very beginning. All right. Then you teach them how to field the ball, how to throw the ball. You teach just like you're teaching a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old that hasn't been exposed to the game. So and then you try to find in most of the islands, you can't practice every day, all right, because they've got to work or they've got this or there's not a field space, whatever it is. So what I tried to do is we tried to go 4 days a week. We tried to go on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Okay, not Sundays. And just in most of the islands, Sunday is a day of the family or a day of worship. So you're not going to get very many island countries that are going to go to the field on Sunday. All right. So and then we'd say practice starts at this time, and off we'd go, and that's what I would do. So you work with the pitchers. You show them how to pitch, and then your eyes would tell you which guys can pitch and which guys can't. You try to develop a couple of catchers, and again, your eyes will tell you which guys will be good catchers. So a lot of the development that happens in those countries, in the countries where they've never played, the onus is on the person doing the teaching to put them into positions that you think that they're going to be best suited for, so this team has a chance to be successful. But you go to places like Guam or Saipan or Palau or the FSM, and the FSM is the Federal States of Micronesia, where they play lots of baseball. In Oceania, the northern region is a lot more developed to baseball than the southern region. So that's Palau and Guam and Saipan, FSM. Those guys play lots of baseball. In American Samoa, in the south, New Zealand, Fiji, New Caledonia, Western Samoa, the Solomon Islands, those places haven't played a lot of baseball. All right. They hadn't played a lot of baseball. So even when I got to New Zealand, they played lots of softball. Well, they're one of the best teams in the world in softball. The Black Sox are called. So we had to teach some baseball stuff. And so again, you do the same thing again. But even in New Zealand, it was, well, we can't practice every day because they're not used to doing that. And so you say, well, here's what we're going to do. And they got better. It takes time. it's a progress. It's a progress, as you know, the same thing that you do at last wraps. You bring them in. This is the first step. This is the second step. This is the third step. And as they climb those steps, you see that they're getting better and a better understanding of the game. But it takes time. It takes time. It's like when you like you mentioned about the Dominican Republic, where they have the academies and stuff. Those guys play all the time. They play. So all they're doing there with those kids is tweaking what they have. They're just tweaking the skills, but they don't teach them how to play. They know how to play. All right. Where in a lot of the places in Oceania, you got to teach them how to play. So you got to teach philosophy. You got to teach the rules. You got to teach a lot of stuff with the infield. You can so it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding for me because I enjoy doing it.
Absolutely. And so if I had to ask you a few things with regards to the Oceanic region, how do you develop a pathway for kids to realize in those marketplaces where, hey, there's somewhere that you can play beyond, not just for fun at the children's level, but also through high school and maybe even beyond high school? Because there they wouldn't have the Australian Baseball League has now had an expansion team into New Zealand. But how do you give those kids a pathway that they can actually play beyond high school or play beyond the Little League level where you're teaching them the game?
Well, you don't have to worry about Australia. Australia is self-sufficient. They've played baseball there forever. They've got very good coaches there. They have a structure to their leagues. And it's very well scouted. I think every team in Major League Baseball has a scout in Australia. But for me, what has to happen in Australia is they still got to play more games. They still don't play enough games. In New Zealand, it's getting better, but they've lost a couple of steps in their development, which I think eventually they'll get back. But what I would do with the kids in New Zealand is if we identified some kids who had the ability, we'd get them off to a college in the United States, and hopefully they'll get their education and come home. We had there's been a few. The first one that I sent was a guy named Scott Campbell. Scott Campbell went to Central Arizona. He went there. He was about the 15th second baseman when he got there in September. When it got to January, he was a starting second baseman at Central Arizona, and he wound up being a first team All-American. Then he wound up going to not Boise. He wound up going to I forgot the school he went to, but it's in the Northwest. Not Boise. Anyway, and so out of there he got drafted by the Blue Jays. And he signed with the Blue Jays, and he one spring training. He spent the whole spring training in big league camp, so they liked him. He was going to play in Las Vegas. He hurt his hip. It never became better, and so eventually they had to release him. But there's a kid who went a long way, and this guy went there on for sure. He had talent, but he had a lot of stick-to-itiveness. There was just no quitting Scott Campbell, and I think if he doesn't get hurt, he would have been a very good utility player. Because he could catch, he could play the infield, he could play the outfield, and he was one of those guys that just knew how to play, and he was willing to do it whatever it takes to play. But and then you'll have usually in places like Fiji and New Caledonia, Western Samoa, there's not going to be a whole lot of kids there because again in those countries, the game that they're going to play is rugby. All right. And the reason they're going to play rugby is because they have professional rugby, and they can become professionals and make some money and take care of their family. When I was scouting with the Mariners, I sent them a proposal for Fiji, and I said for X amount of dollars, we can see every kid in Fiji play. And it's not going to cost a lot. I said if we feed them lunch and give them $5 a day, we're going to see every kid in Fiji, and there's some great athletes in Fiji. I says, and then we scout them. So we pick the best kids. we put them into a league for a couple of months and see what we see. I said, we're going to have some kids there that could be major leaguers. Well, they didn't want to make the investment. And we're talking, it was nothing. Hell, they spend more on lunch than it would have cost to make a program like that go there. But again, there wasn't the interest, but there was lots of interest in South Africa. Well, because there's lots of people in South Africa, and they can sell their goods there, their hats and their gloves and blah blah blah. So people are going to buy a lot of stuff. In Oceania, because it's a big area, but there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of desire by Major League Baseball to set up any kind of academies or development programs for those places because they don't see a value. And I disagree with that because the value should be the responsibility of the people that have the resource to grow the game wherever they can. So instead of paying the guy from the Padres $347 million for 14 years, pay him $346 and take $1 million and put it into the development. So there's more kids playing the game, more kids given an opportunity to become a major leaguer.
Right. And so the next question I would have to you is that, like, when you have again these what I call rural areas, or maybe even third tier areas that baseball is not the number one, or for that matter even the number two sport. What other things do you see that baseball is up against? Obviously, you said rugby's the key sport in Fiji and for that matter in New Zealand. But what other financial obstacles did you see or come across during your time in the Oceanic region? I know my time in Europe, I have my thoughts on some things, but I'm curious to know what maybe financial hurdles you might have come across in your time in the Oceanic region.
No, I'm not. It's probably the same kinds of things, Fred. Baseball is not a cheap sport. Baseballs cost money. A dozen baseballs now is about, I think, $60 a dozen. All right, $60 a dozen. Well, as we know, once it gets wet, it's done. Bats aren't cheap. Gloves aren't cheap. Now, to be fair to the World Baseball, the International Baseball Association, they do help provide some of those gears, catching gears, and they give you some gloves and stuff. So they'll send you a kit, and then you have to make sure that you look after it, and so that there's gloves when kids want to come and play. But the biggest expense is the cost with the baseballs. When I first went to American Samoa, they'd hit a foul ball and nobody would go chase it. And I was going to go get the ball. They said, "Well, why?" I said, "Because you don't have any." I said, what are you going to start throwing rocks at each other? So we started going to get the foul balls. So all of a sudden we had more balls. I'm very big at looking after the baseballs. Even with our team up here in Canada, I look after the balls, because somebody has to pay for them. And so you want players at every level to have a respect for the game, to have a respect that somebody's paying money so you can go out there and play. Now at the major league level, they throw the balls into the stands. Well, hell, Major League Baseball don't care. When I was a young kid and we went to watch the Dodgers play or the Angels play in Los Angeles, players weren't allowed to throw balls into the stands. It was against the rules. All right.
Yep.
It didn't happen.
That pretty much changed after the '94 strike. They had to warm up a little bit to the fans because I remember that big thing as a kid. They wouldn't do it, but when they shut the season down in the '94 season, they had to come back with ways to try to win the fans over, and that was a turning point of the interaction of the players to the fans. Because you're right, they don't put the balls in the stands, and there wasn't the interaction.
Well, first of all, the ball costs money, and the second reason was because liability. Yeah. So you throw a ball into the stands, it hits the guy in the head because the kid you threw to couldn't catch it. Well, the team could be liable. So it just didn't happen. But now it's just common practice. Throw the balls into the stands. Let them take home a souvenir. All right. Well, if you're charging what you're charging these people to go watch a game, I guess you can give a kid a $5 ball. Well, not even $5. Major league level, they're probably paying about $3 a ball. $3 a ball.
Yeah. Buying in volume and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So what would be some of the ways when you and just to let everybody know, we're joined by Ray Brown, and Ray obviously when we did the introduction at the beginning is a former minor leaguer with the Kansas City Royals. He spent over 50 years playing coaching in baseball, and he for since 1993 has been the development officer for the Oceanic region, as well as running the last couple of years. Well, although they didn't have a season last year, Fort McMurray Giants, the Western Major League. So, Ray, I was going to ask you, what are ways that when you get into these other rural areas, how do they attract kids to come and play? Because in some ways, certain parts of Canada are going to be up against that, and I would think even certain parts of the United States that aren't like the major centers for baseball will be fighting against other sports. How do they? How would you try to attract kids to the sport of baseball? What would you do at the younger age?
Usually what happens when you go to a newly developing country of any sport, you're going to get the kids who aren't good enough to play at the premier sports in that country. So we'll use Fiji, or we can even use the Solomon Islands. If they're not, and in Solomon Islands, soccer is big in the Solomons, because what soccer has done, soccer has gone to the Solomon Islands and they've built an academy there, and they hire the coaches to work with these kids. So these kids have a place to go. They become good to move on. So in the Solomon Islands, you're going to get the kids who aren't good enough to be soccer guys. So you're going to get a lot of athletes that aren't very good. That's the way it is, and that's going to be for any sport. That's for any sport. Like if I'm sure in the early days of baseball in Canada, that's how it was. If they weren't good at hockey, we'll go play baseball so we can play something. All right, and so that's going to be your starting ground. Athlete people that aren't don't have a whole lot of athletic ability, but that's what you have and that's what you work with, and you try to make them as good as they can be with an understanding of the game, and go from there. Now, if you can develop a strong program, you'll start getting some of those better kids. But unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it's called reality, is unless Major League Baseball can come in and give some incentive for those kids to switch, why would they switch? They'll stay with soccer, or they'll stay with rugby, or they'll stay with cricket, because they've developed a pathway to go from the grassroots to professional, where you can make some money. And again, that's in those countries, that's one way you can support your family. There's not a lot of businesses in those places, so you want to find a way to make some money to take care of your family. Well, if you're a good soccer guy and you get to the top rung, you'll make a pretty good living. And the same with cricket, and the same with rugby. So for what baseball I think should be doing is putting a lot more money into those smaller countries so they can attract these kids to come and give baseball a go. The better athletes, the better ones, and see what they get. So now they have to make a choice. Like when you were talking about hockey and baseball in Canada. I've been in Edmonton since I came in 75, since 76 permanently. I've never understood why baseball tries to compete with hockey. They said, well, we have to end our season on this date because hockey starts. I said, so? Well, we're going to lose kids. Yeah, I says, but you're not going to lose the ones who only want to play baseball. I said, let hockey take care of hockey, but it's our job as baseball to look after the kids who want more baseball.
Correct.
Let them go play hockey. I said, all of a sudden, you lose those 4 or 5 blue chip kids because they want to play hockey. Now you get the second tier kid, and all of a sudden that kid becomes pretty good because now he's getting more game time, more practice time. You say, wow, how did he get so good? Well, because you gave him a chance to play now.
We got a question from the audience, Ray, and Redbeard Breaks has asked a question, so I've kind of changed the stream a bit, but he wants to know who your favorite Major League Baseball pitcher is right now, and then maybe you might want to give us some insight into why you think he's your number one guy.
Oh wow, I don't know if I have a number one guy. I'll tell you. Wow, I like the guy from the Dodgers, not Kershaw, the other one, the young kid.
Walker Buehler?
Yes, I like him. I like how he goes about his business. I like how he attacks the hitters. He looks like a no-nonsense guy, and plus he's got pretty good stuff. So I like him. I like the guy. I like I think Soroka is going to be really good. He's a Canadian guy. I like how he attacks hitters. I like guys who go out there and attack the hitter. I think Snell is going to do a great job with San Diego because again he attacks hitters. I like guys who aren't afraid to get beat. All right, who aren't trying to trick you. This is what I tell my pitchers. I said I don't care what pitch you throw. I care about the location of that pitch. All right. I said we're not trying to trick that guy. We're trying to get him out. And so whatever the count is, I don't care what pitch you throw because I don't think it's the pitch that gets him out or doesn't get him out. I think it's where you locate that pitch that gets him out or doesn't get him out. So if you're looking for a fastball, but I locate it down and away, the odds are in my favor are in my favor 90% that you're not going to hit that ball hard. But if I throw you one down the middle, all of a sudden I get beat. All right, even though it might, in somebody's opinion, be the right pitch to throw, the location was wrong. But now to answer the question, yeah, I like Buehler a lot. I like how he attacks the guys, and yeah.
So I got a couple other questions for you, Ray, because we got about 10 minutes left in the stream. And the other question I had for you is and it's more of a comment and a lead into a question. I met Don Cooper a number of years ago, and he used to be the pitching coach for the Chicago White Sox. I think he was terminated last year. And Cooper used to talk quite a bit about Mark Burley. And Burley, he used to say, hey, I don't care. He very rarely shook his catchers off of signs. He said maybe 4 or 5 times an entire season he would shake his catcher off. And Burley's philosophy was, you put the number down, I'm going to throw it. It's my job to hit the spot, and it's the hitter's job to hit it. So my question to you is with pitchers, and talking about Walker Buehler, what do you think about guys who have that mind frame, or who are guys, and maybe not current players, but recent guys who you would say would attack hitters in that mindset?
Well, I don't follow all the pitchers that well, but there's I think the Blue Jays, some of their guys got better at that at the end of the year last year, but I think at the beginning of the year and even for the last few years, there's the Blue Jays pitchers have been afraid to pitch. All right, they're afraid the guy might. Well, the hitter's job is to hit the ball, but it's your job to throw a pitch so he doesn't hit it hard. All right, take the sting out of the bat. And I like I said at the beginning, there's too many clubs that scout off the radar gun. So if the guy's throwing at the number that they like, he's going to get an opportunity. But they don't know if he can pitch. All right, they don't know if he can pitch. You know, you go back, Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan could pitch. All the numbers don't lie. And because when I was a young guy, there was a philosophy: you never throw 3 of the same pitch in a row. Well, when I became a pitcher, and I said that makes no sense at all. I had a pretty good curveball, so for me to throw you 2 good curveballs and then throw you a fastball made no sense at all. So I threw 3 curveballs in a row. There was another philosophy that says 0-2, you want to waste a pitch. All right. Why? So waste the pitch, and now it's 1-2, and now you don't waste, and the guy hits a double. And so what I tell my guy, I say to my guys, when we go 0-2, I want to see a fastball on his hands, all right, inner half on his hands, or I want to see a breaking ball away. I said, but we're not going to throw a useless pitch, all right? Now if we get beat 0-2, I'm not going to do the dance of joy, all right? But I'm not going to be totally upset if he made the pitch he had to make and the guy reaches out and something falls in. That's going to happen. But that can happen 2-2 or 1-2, whatever the count is. But if he makes the quality pitch 0-2, I can live with it. I'll say, hey, he made a good pitch. Shit happens. All right, and so it's the same when you so when Nolan Ryan was pitching, if the count was 3-2, and this is why I tell my guys, what pitch. All right, I tell the hitters, what pitch is Nolan Ryan going to throw you 3-2? Fastball. I says, and you know it's coming. All right, and over 5,000 times he won. So you can be looking for the guy's pitch, but if he's got that kind of plus stuff, or the better guy is when Chapman first came up with the Yankees. No, when he first came up with the Reds, when Chapman first came up, and the gun was saying 104 to 105. Do you think it made any difference that the hitter knew the fastball was coming? Because nobody ever seen it. He's going to beat him. All right. So don't try to trick him. It's like when the Yankees played the Astros in the playoff, and the little second baseman hit the home run that won the game for him. Remember that he hit the pitch he hit was a backup slider. It was a backup slider. And so I says, why would Chapman throw this guy his second best pitch in that situation? Because he was trying to trick him. I'll try to fool him with his backup slider that'll go 445 feet and we'll lose the game. Instead of saying, me and you, pal, here it comes. Boom. You can't be afraid as a pitcher to challenge the hitter. All right? To challenge. Now that doesn't mean just throw it down the middle. You still got to have some stuff on it and put it in a good spot. But I like guys to do that. Those are the guys I want playing for me, whether he's throwing 95 or 85. A guy who's not afraid to meet the challenge and make this guy hit the ball. I've been over 50 years in baseball, and still to this day I've never come up with a philosophy or talk to somebody that has one of how do you beat the base on balls. Doesn't happen.
Yep.
Base on balls is a base. All of a sudden, games. How many games have we seen in the course of our life? Bases loaded and they walk in the winning run. Well, absolutely. It happens, but it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen, and then sometimes that's because the pitcher is afraid to compete. He doesn't want to get beat, and as soon as you get in your mind, I'm afraid to get beat, you're going to get beat. Like I got to see Koufax pitch. I got to see Drysdale pitch. I got to see Bob Gibson pitch. I got to see Mickey Lolich pitch. I got to see a lot of guys pitch who went out there to pitch. Who they went out there to beat you, not to fool you, but to beat you. All right.
Yeah. Well, listen, Ray. We're gonna have to unfortunately wrap it up there. We've got a lot of content for today, and of course, we really appreciate you joining the channel. And to talk about baseball development, not just at the professional level, but also in rural areas. We'd love to have you back in the future as a guest, and hopefully maybe we can bring in a couple other people with us. We can do a little bit of a roundtable. So if anybody has any post questions, feel free to leave it in our comments section because our video, the recap of our video will be posted on our page. And we would definitely ask Ray the questions and follow up with you as needed. So once again, Ray, thanks again for joining the Last Drafts Baseball channel. We look forward to seeing you again, and we'll be talking to you in the not so distant future.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Thanks for having me, and good evening to everybody.
All right, we appreciate it. We'll see you again soon. Well, that's Ray Brown, and that's Talking Baseball with Last Drafts Baseball. It's been great having everybody that's tuned in, and obviously for those who will watch this on delay. Just a couple of things that are coming up for us is going to be, we are going to be doing next week our first live break, as Last Drafts Baseball is going to be doing a mixer break. At the same time, we're going to be doing some baseball cards, and we're going to be breaking some stuff and moving some stuff off. So we have a random team break that's coming up. We will post a video here in the next 24 hours that you folks can check it out and see what we can do and information on how to join the break. We're also going to be bringing Ray back in the next couple of weeks to talk again, and we're going to line up a couple more guests to be talking baseball in the future. So once again, everybody, you've watched another Last Drafts Baseball video production. We all have a great day. Come on back and see us again later because we are going to do it all over again.